Thank you very much. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. As Alex said, my name is Martin Ward. I'm Director of My Project Solutions. We're a software development business that particularly focuses on the built environment. Our solutions kind of bridge what we call the kind of Bermuda Triangle between customer, framework, provider, and contractor. And we aim to provide digital assurance tools to kind of measure compliance, performance, social value, and so on and so forth, but kind of really try and improve the communication and mitigate risk between all parties. The case study that I'm going to walk you through this afternoon is a piece of work that we've done with Wilmot Dixon that started back in 2015, and I kind of picked it because it demonstrates really just how two very different businesses can kind of work together to deliver a common good. And I thought also it would be quite useful to focus on, I knew these sessions will be very much focused on digital twin and BIMs and big data. So I thought it'd be very useful to kind of maybe period things back and provide a case study and an overview of something that really affects the operative, without which, the site workers, the people on site, without which we don't have the fantastic industry that we work in. For those that don't know, Wilmot Dixon are, I suppose, one of only a handful of UK contractors that go back many, many years, still family run and family owned. I think there's only a handful left. It's one of the leading contractors in the UK. They do a huge array of projects from the Admiralty building to biochemical research buildings, as if we've got there. They've got a huge agenda on the sustainability and social value. Like a lot of organizations at the moment, they take it very seriously. But what we're going to talk about in this session is focus on something that is quite granular. And although most of our solutions focus in this kind of world of KPI and performance metrics, this one is a little bit more different and I suppose a little bit more, I suppose, real for a lot of people. And it comes down to the core business need that contractors, certainly in the UK, have a statutory requirement to provide induction training for every single person visiting site. And this is in order to protect and care and welfare for their operatives. And before we started getting engaged with Wilmot Dixon, this is the kind of standard process that the business followed for every single site worker attending. So a site worker would attend his construction site for the first time. They would speak to a site manager or site administrator, and they would check the the credentials and the paperwork, permits to work. They'd photocopy all that data and store it in files on site. The workers would then all be kind of corralled into a room and sit to watch a video induction and onboarding, usually video, sometimes CD, but they would watch the video. The site manager would then undertake a site specific induction about the vagaries of how the site was set up and where people were able to move with freedom. And then they'd be granted access to site. And this process, as we said, kind of ran for many years. And everything seems fine. You kind of think it's a process, it works. But when challenged and when we started to get under the hood of it, we found that it wasn't maybe as slick and as meaningful as what it could be. We found that a lot of workers that were attending on site came with the wrong paperwork, didn't come with the right permits. Quite often, those certifications that allowed them to go into certain areas, do certain tasks on site, the CSCS cards, were expired. We even found instances where people were borrowing different cards if they couldn't find the cards. And so this whole element of verification was hugely time consuming. It was looking at about 1 in 10 workers were not literally flying through the process and going through these kind of challenges. And as a business of Wilmot Dixon size, that's about 5,000 workers that are being delayed in terms of getting access to site. The obvious one, which I'm sure people are going to go, and they've seen many different case studies of paperwork being reduced because of technology, but the paperwork that was produced was enormous. Wilmot Dixon have about 160, 180 sites, projects live in any one year. We estimated at least conservatively that's about 70,000 to 90,000 sheets of paper that were being produced and then stored in a format that really nobody could ever make any sense of. The big one, and the real interesting one for me, is the fact that operatives, when they visited site, it didn't matter how many sites that people were attending, they would sit through the same content. So if I'm a grounds worker and I may be being used on 10 different Wilmot Dixon sites in over a period of 5-6 months, as soon as I attend that site, I've got to sit through that same video again in that same material. And even worse, doesn't matter if what it's relevant. So I could be being taught about working at height or hot works, and I'm a grounds worker. So the content wasn't relevant. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't engaging, and we found that certainly a lot of workers would just kind of sit through it, and you kind of wonder what kind of value it was adding. So you add all these elements together. The process is time consuming. The site managers were probably spending about 25% of the time on inductions and dealing with issues and challenges about bringing people on to site. Workers really not engaged in the slightest in the process. And you know, the whole process is happening actually on site, which is probably not the best environment to undertake these activities. Coupled with that, absolutely zero auditability. Everything was held within each construction site. There was no concept of looking across site, looking at how people, you know, looking at where the issues are. So that, as you would probably guess, leads us on to looking at how we could improve. And it was Mark French at the time, who is the Chief Safety, Health and Environmental Officer at Wilmot Dixon, that kind of highlighted the kind of 4 key drivers there. And the logical move would be to see, you know, can we get a digital intervention of this kind of manual process to improve data accuracy, to improve site management, and get to a stage where people are more focused on the right things. So we, working with Wilmot Dixon, we kind of collaborated on trying to unpick the process. The drive to use technology to transform and not replicate was a key overriding factor. So there's no point in replicating a process that could be improved by technology. So we looked at everything and every step that we could do to do that. Wilmot Dixon were very keen to make sure that whatever we put in was mandated across every supplier, so that we had a consistent way of working. We looked at ways of training tailoring the training material. So we took the training material, we carved it up, we had better videos, they were digital, available online, but importantly, they were actually related to the roles that we're asking people to do. So again, it was focused and more engaging. We introduced kind of QA functionality, and we thought about the best way of doing that to test workers' understanding. So we didn't want people just to sit through, you know, there's got to be some kind of challenge. A total removal of all paper, and we launched a new system, which is a solution called PreEnrolment in 2016 across every site after initial pilots, but across every site that Wilmot Dixon's owned. And this is the process that we kind of moved to. So the site worker now, rather than going straight to site, literally goes online, puts his credentials in, registers his details, Those details are then checked against the appropriate CSCS validation certificate to make sure it's accurate, to make sure that people are who they say they actually are. The content then is served up by the roles that the operative has tested against, and his credentials tested against. There is then a QA process that the operative goes through. So they are asked a series of questions, and then the operative gets issued an ID, a unique reference number. The worker then attends site, and the site manager or site administrator will then verify that URN, and that will give them an instant check to say that everything has passed, or no, there's issues in the process. But they won't get that far of that verification if they haven't got everything right. So basically, all of the challenge on data is resolved. The site manager then has time to induct and undertake the site-specific induction for the operative, absolutely tailored and fully focused on really what they should be focused on. And then the operative is granted access to site. So the whole process in the dotted box there is undertaken before the operative, in his own time, online, before the operative even thinks about attending a site. From a site manager point of view, everything that is everybody who's turning up is turning up with the right information. The benefits, well, the benefits were quite significant. We got the benefits that they came out very quickly. The 50% accident frequency reduction, although we can't claim that every single thing came from the system, we've had consistent drop of a similar level from other pre-enrollment solutions and businesses adopting these kind of tools. So it really drives the right behavior, and it really drives the right focus. The ability to look across the board and to look across every single site, to look at how many people are attending site, what skills, where the issues are, is something that never existed in the business before. The fact that the supply chain themselves were having a huge buy-in and was a massive support, because from their point of view, from a supplier's point of view, I'm only attending the site, I'm going through this process once as the overarching induction, and I'm having a tailored site induction on every site, rather than 10 or 5 different, the repeat process. So there's a big gain, both from a contractor point of view, from site management and improved data, but also a big benefit from the supply chain. It enabled the ability to push out data for things like COVID responses. So instantly we can communicate with new standards out to the supply chain. And the obvious one, obviously, no paper, which obviously leads to the greater ability to analyze the information. We did have a lot of learnings through the process. We introduced very quickly an ability to randomize the question set. We found operatives were trying to circulate cheat sheets at times, so they could just spin through the videos without watching them. I think people look for a certain kind of person will look for any opportunity to speed up a process. So we now look for trends in terms of people getting consistent questions wrong, or and we randomize, then sometimes introduce different videos. Online operatives, even in this day and age, still remains a challenge for some operatives. Not everybody has smartphones. We moved very quickly to an online chat facility rather than an email chat. If you're attending sites and people are coming on site and there's an issue, you've got to get onto this really quickly. And our response time now is less than 10 seconds for every operative that we've got using the system. And most of those are basic questions and challenges about either question sets or our CSCS card validation. The solution is now commercially available from 2019, and we are now kind of growing our own contractor base using the same solution, which is great because we're driving greater feedback. And we're looking to get into things like turnstile integration, so the operative induction with the right data validated can seamlessly go through to turnstiles all the way through to site without having to rescan or retake pictures, again, improving that kind of process. The net result really is during those 6-7 years, we've had 106 man hours worked across the business, a 58% drop in total RIDAR incidents, 73,000 supply chain working hours saved, 400,000 operatives pre-enrolled through the system, and ultimately 5 weeks of effort being reduced. And that all kind of equates to a business saving for Wilmot Dixon when you add all the hours up and the savings and the focus of about 1.1 million business, 1.1 million in an annual each year. So it's a great story. It's a great case study and a great benefit. In terms of where we take it and where we're looking to move forward, we are looking to kind of, I suppose, take the solution a step further. Some of that is driven by new contractors coming on board with new ideas, but the ability to go industry agnostic from a turnstile perspective, it would be a huge value for us. Detach the registration element from my pre-enrollment. So this is something that we've got at the moment with, if I'm a supplier working for 5 contractors using our system, they have to register 5 times. So we're looking to centralize that registration and make it easier so that one operative, once registered, can then work in multiple instances. We're looking to move into push into an industry-wide kind of platform from that registration element, because we think there's a lot of value in suppliers getting access to operative data, and there is no one construction operative database serving our whole industry. So we think we've got a huge amount of benefit from working with certain clients. We think as as a software provider, we have a drive to kind of drive industry betterment, and that's something that's quite important to us. So, our ability to become a gateway for construction software could, when registered, could other contractors then connect and work with other software in the industry outside of our sphere? Well, why not? Why should we not share that validated data? And our aim is to try and make it free of charge for all operatives in the UK. So anybody working can have a set of trusted data, a single point of log on and registration that they can then use on multiple sites and for multiple contractors. So hopefully that kind of whirlwind tour kind of made sense in terms of where we got to. Alex, I'm going to hand back over to you. That was our final slide, but very happy to take any questions if anybody's got any.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Martin, for that very practical and, as you said yourself, granular use some examples of how digitalization can practically work to speed processes. We have a few questions. Are you planning on rolling this tech out internationally, or do you see it as a UK-centric system?
No, I think at the moment our plans are to focus on our home market, but there's no reason at all why it can't go further afield. The standards can be different. We can set the system to pull in various different databases. A lot of the data that we're pulling from a verification is freely available. So we should be able to do that. And if anybody's interested, then yeah, we'd be happy to have the conversation.
Okay, what was the reaction of staff to this? Was there any resistance to change?
No, like I say, the only thing that we encountered was, there are operatives, and we've got to face the reality. Although we talk about technology, not every operative on site has a smartphone. Not every operative turning up to site has a phone, and I think the steps that we made, looking at some of the chat functions, look at the certainly supported adoption better, and the system is really simple. But ultimately what we say to suppliers where that's kind of happening, support your co-worker, help them through the process. But if you haven't got a phone, maybe it might be time to buy one.
Okay, and final question, is there any real health and safety benefit to this?
Well, I think you've only got to look at the AFR reduction that we've had, and like I say, that's been replicated. Every single person that's attending site should, as a right to be safe on site. We found that the AFR reduced, but also I think the operative focus, it's about attending a site with the right mindset, and putting somebody in a porter cabin and getting them to look at materials, a video that might be 5 years out of date, has no relevance to the role, really isn't the right mindset for somebody then to work in, what can be at times a hostile environment. So I think getting that right mindset and the well-being of the operative and putting that first is paramount, really.
Okay, well, thanks once again to Martin Ward of My Project Solutions. Thank you very much indeed.